Hello, my name is Shagnik Burman.
And I'm Harika Reddy.
Hi, Harika Reddy. Welcome to our annual movie watch list. For January, we will be talking about Sonar Kella,
Yes.
which is
Maybe it's best to tell our non existing listeners what the annual watch list is,
so the annual watch list is basically what it says on the tin. It's a list of films we have put down to watch every year once.
which obviously it's not possible to watch every year. So it's a list of movies we go back to whenever we don't know what to watch instead of doom scrolling Netflix.
Yeah,
We go back to these movies.
it's a comfort list, but also things we genuinely enjoyed watching as a couple. And it's just comfy watches. And since we have been
Some of them are difficult to watch, but I guess we go back to them for certain reasons.
yeah,
The Fountain, for instance, we go back to it because I don't know why we go back to it.
because it's a
Makes us
beautiful film.
sob.
It's a beautiful film.
It is, it is.
I-
Which also we'll cover this year, so
So look forward to that. Oh boy. Why did we agree to do this again?
because we have nothing better to do in life, I guess. Despite all the things that we do have to do, but we procrastinate because we procrastinate.
Speaking of procrastination, we have been talking about making this podcast for 2 years now.
2 years now.
2 years.
Over.
And it is only now in this new year that we have decided to just fuck it and give it a go.
Yeah.
So here we are,
Yeah.
recording our thoughts on the movies we love, watching together as a couple. And first, the distinction of being first, goes to Satyajit Ray's Sonar Kella, released in 1974, so 50 years ago. Honestly, 50 years ago, almost to the day, because it was released on the 27th of December.
Oh.
So it's 50 years plus, just over 50 years. It obviously directed by Satyajit Ray, screenplay by him, the original story is by him, the music direction is by him. He even drew the opening credits.
The art.
Yeah, obviously not all the talents he has, but quite a sizable amount of them are on display for this film.
The overachieving Bengalis making life difficult for everyone in India.
I mean, it's very rare you get someone like that.
No, but honestly, in the South, Bengalis have that stereotype.
Yeah, in Bengal, South people have that stereotype.
I guess we cancel out each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have the entire math science community.
You have the math science community too, and the arts community.
Okay, I'll take that. I'm not going to like sit here and say we don't have something.
Yeah.
I'll take all the credit for the community. Thank you. And even for 1974, to show how big of a success this thing was, it was made on a budget of 12 lakhs. And it made a box office of 75 lakhs plus.
Wow.
In 74 money, that's a lot of money.
To be fair, in 74 money, 12 lakhs was also a lot of money to put in as budget.
Which came from the West Bengal government. The West Bengal government produced this film. For the second time, the West Bengal government produced a Satyajit Ray film. The first one was Pather Pachali in 1955.
Oh.
Yeah, so back then Bidhan Chandra Ray was the chief minister and he decided to give this film money. And obviously we know the story behind that one. This one was started life as a short story, not a short story, but a novella released in the Puja edition of a children's magazine. It was released in 1971.
You had puja editions
Oh, yeah,
for
dude.
magazines?
We still do.
Oh, that's nice.
Every magazine has a Puja edition with like thick annual books which have like articles, stories by artists,
Wow.
writers, things like that.
See, this is what I mean. You truly embrace art.
I'm surprised that's not a thing everywhere.
So am I. It's a little disappointing that it isn't.
I mean, even if it's not for puja, at least you have other festivals for which you can have.
I guess we have our own Ugadi or Sankranti editions, but they're very religious and not,
Religious.
yes, and not, I mean, puja is also, for Durga Ma and all that, but I do see that it's not extremely religious.
No.
There's a element of art in there. There's an element of local artists putting up their work. It's like a little gallery.
Basically, yeah. It's become that way. Obviously, it started with religious roots. Now it's more of a secular cultural thing. You don't necessarily have to be religious for it. But anyway, the story came out in 1971. And Subroto Mukherjee, who was a very notable politician, he died 2023. He was, funnily enough, one of the chief aides of Indira Gandhi back in the day.
Oh.
So Subroto Mukherjee was the Minister for Cultural Information and Cultural Affairs back in the day in 1972 under, what was his name again? I always forget this guy's name. I shouldn't. Siddhartha Shankar Rai. Siddhartha Shankar Rai was the chief minister under which the Naxalite rebellion, everything happened.
Oh.
Yeah, this was a little before that. So Subroto Mukherjee went to Satyajit Ray and after reading the story and said, "Hey, Manikda, why don't you make a film about this? It's going to be really nice." And Satyajit Ray hadn't really thought about making a Feluda film up until that point. And then
When did he start writing the books, though?
when did he start writing books in general?
No, Feluda books.
It was a while, at least in the mid 60s.
Let me look it up in the meanwhile, while you give me more trivia.
The first story was Darjeeling Jamjamat. Sorry, Feludar Goendagiri.
Okay.
And it just became a thing from there. The first story wasn't really meant to be a serious story. It was just a fun little short story. But it got popular, and honestly, Shodhitra has said himself on multiple occasions that he supported his filmmaking by writing stories. That was the money-making machine behind his films.
I see.
So
If I can use that pause. The first one was Danger in Darjeeling, 1965. I don't know when he wrote it, but it was published in 65.
makes sense. The first story had to do with Darjeeling. That's why I said Darjeeling Jamjamat, which is not the first one. But yeah, it's all shit like that. So Siddhartha Shankar Rai and Satyajit Ray used to be neighbors. And then they used to be batchmates at Presidency College, so they both knew each other. So Subroto Mukherjee, being a cabinet member at the time, brought the proposition to Siddhartha Shankar Rai. And he said, fine, I will give Manik the money for making this film. And so production began. So unless Subroto Mukherjee started the whole, Manik the make a children's film, it would not have happened. Which I think is remarkable, that you have this man, and let's be honest, the Ray family is very well connected. Not everyone is going to have cabinet ministers drop in and say, hey, let's make a film, I'll give you money. And obviously he has a pedigree and a reputation for making...
Because I believe his father was also a writer.
Yeah, his father was a writer, his grandfather was a publisher and writer. It's a very...
Right. There's a lineage.
Yeah. So the government also knew what it was doing, in that by supporting this man who has already won national awards, they knew that it would give them returns. So that's why it was made. That's the story behind the making of it. And funnily enough, when Satyajit Ray first started writing Feluda stories, Feluda looked very different because he illustrated the stories himself.
So you're telling me he did not look like Soumitra?
Oh no. After he saw Soumitra, Feluda started looking like Soumitra.
Oh.
Yeah.
As in the art as well?
In the art as well.
Oh.
So it was completely modeled after that experience.
Oh.
And
Hey, I mean, if you want to draw after someone, I think Soumitra Chatterjee is a great model.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And
What
the
a
thing is,
handsome man.
since obviously it's no secret that they filmed at Jaisalmer, he discovered that location while filming another film. I want to say it was Gupika in Bakabain,
Oh.
because they have the teleportation scenes
Uh-huh.
there, and he had to film a desert. So that's where he saw it for the first time. And I think that became a constant inspiration for him to write the story.
Hmm.
And since Sonar Kella is such a, I won't, classic story among Bengali people, in that my father showed it to me. If I had kids, I would show it to them, and it would be a continual thing.
Across the country, to be honest, my grandfather told me to watch Sonar Kella and
Really?
the Apu trilogy the minute I told him that I was dating a Bengali boy.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the amount of Bengali tourists to Jaisalmer just skyrocketed, has been high since. And colloquially, Sonar Kella is just a very, very common thing you hear in Jaisalmer nowadays.
I see.
So yeah, there you have some trivia about
That's
the making of the film.
fascinating.
It is.
It is.
It is.
Truly is. So, a movie like this, where do you even begin to break it down, to analyze? So, just for context, we watched a video on how to analyze films by Patrick Wilhelm. Can't pronounce the second name, but we call him the naughty takla guy between the two of us. And he had about 12 things. Off the top of my head, you have the light, the cinematography, the mise en scène. So, considering all those 10 to 12 odd things, what are the things that you want to consider while reviewing a movie?
3 things in particular, broad strokes. First would be the audio aspect, because I have always been a narrative guy, right? I'm a writer. That's what I consider when watching a film.
For the record, Shagnak is also a film student, so
I was a film student.
yeah, he was a film student, but you have a certain amount of knowledge and you've worked on a couple of documentaries as well.
A long time ago, but yes.
But why does it matter? You have the experience, don't you?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So he may not know all the time what he's talking about, but he certainly knows most of the time what he's talking about.
I sure hope so. But yeah, 3 things I'd like to consider for any film is firstly the narrative, the audio, and the video aspect. Now, being a story guy, I was almost always obsessed with how a plot was structured and how the story concluded. That was my idea of what a good film was. But after meeting you, you opened my eyes to the auditory aspect of it. Because for me, sound was invisible. Sound didn't really matter because I didn't register it. You have taught me to keep an ear open to see how exactly music can enhance a scene. So why don't you take it? Start with the sound
We'll
aspect.
start with the sound aspect.
Yeah.
So in the sound aspect, I guess we talk about 3 things: the background music, character themes if there are any, and I added songs here because usually in Bollywood movies we have a lot of songs, but then hear me out. If you look at it, even in the Western movies or across the globe, whatever movie we watch, we do have songs. Even though it wasn't originally made for the movie, you still have OSTs from other albums picked up
Right.
and added to
Right.
boost the emotion of the scene. So these are the three things that I'd like to discuss with audio. I have a little background in music, wherein I started studying Carnatic music in second grade, I guess. And then it went on, it's still going on because I took a couple of breaks in the middle. I'm still connected to my music teacher and we still have lessons once in a while. And music, apart from just that, generally speaking too, music gives you a very bodily reaction. I cry very easily. And music makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me anxious, especially if it's a horror film. It does what it's supposed to do. So music is very, very important. And then this movie, starting from the opening credit scene, you know what, funnily enough, when I was taking notes when we were watching the movie last night, the one word I wrote down for how the music made me feel was that it felt jarring. The art was simple. I'm talking about the opening credits, right, where the art is made by Mr. Ray. It was simple and wholesome, but if you look at the music, it started off as very jarring. So you know you're kind of going into a thriller or mystery sort of a film. Even if you don't have any idea of what the kind of movie is you're getting into.
Funnily enough, this is the first thing I wrote down as well. Because if you remember, the movie doesn't start with the opening credits. It has the whole sequence of Mukul at night drawing. And the palette is very cold, very blue. And as soon as he says Sonar Kella, the warmth kicks in. Palette changes. However, the first sound you hear is that of dogs barking in the middle of the night. And that is an ominous sign. That just sets up the expectation for the film that, might look normal, but there is a lot more.
Yeah. There's an iceberg.
Yeah. It's ominous is the only word I can use, which you said jarring. It's kind of on the similar wavelengths.
Towards the end of the opening credits, the instrument used is called the kartal. So
Kortal, yes.
Kortal in Bengali, wooden clapper, which was, I liked it because it's normally used as a percussion instrument. Somehow I can't pronounce things now. It's a percussion instrument, folk instrument. Funnily again, a good 80% of the instrument used here are folk instruments. This one was highlighted here. And then you also have this one called the kamaicha. I don't know how it's properly pronounced because it's a Rajasthani folk instrument. Do you need your phone?
No.
Okay. The kamaicha, it's a stringed instrument. Now, listen to the materials it's made with. Parchment, steel, metal, gut. I don't know what that is. Shisha and horsehair.
Oh.
The only things that kind of make sense to me are horsehair and metal and steel.
Yeah.
I don't know where the parchment comes in, what the gut is, and where the shisha would have been used.
Wow.
I'd really like to look into this a little more. I didn't have the time. It's a Rajasthani folk instrument, and it's mainly used by a Thar desert-based musicians, mostly Sufi musicians. The community is called the Manganayar. Manganyar? Manganiar.
Manganiyars. Muslims. Sufi.
Thar desert-based musicians.
Interesting.
Absolutely beautiful from whatever we've heard in the movie. And then the other song that you told me that you kept listening to a lot while you spent your time in Rajasthan is the Chautara.
Mm.
Chautara.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I have no idea how to pronounce them because
Chautara. 4 strings.
yes, the 4-string instrument.
Yeah.
It's made with wooden steel, and obviously the strings. Once again, a Rajasthani folk instrument used by the Kamad community.
Mm.
Man Mera Ram Ram Rache is the
Yeah,
track
yeah.
where you hear it. And again, though it's a 4-string instrument, it's actually been used as a percussion instrument, while the folk singer Soni Devi sang it for the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
How the hell do you use a string instrument as a percussion? You just plug the strings into the...
Yeah. Just
Oh.
rhythmically scrape it.
Damn.
Do you scrape a string? No, you don't.
You scratch
You
a
pluck
string?
a string?
Pluck a string.
Pluck a string.
Yeah.
Look at us, English people. Another interesting fact I found out is that the Bhatyali, the boatman song of the West Bengal, in this movie was actually performed on a sitar. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. What is it usually performed on?
Bhatyali doesn't need any instruments. It's just something they sing.
They sing.
Traditionally, at least.
But I'm assuming they might use some instrument.
Dhols, you know. Kortal, maybe.
Okay.
Very simple
Makes sense.
instruments.
Kortal makes sense. But yes, on a sitar. That's as much music trivia as I have for you regarding the background music. Character themes. Coming to character themes. Did you know Feluda had a character theme?
Which one?
Do you want to guess?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This film, without all the awards and accolades, is probably known for giving all the 50-year-old uncles a ringtone. Dude, my father had this. All his friends had this. Even now on some buses and trains, I will hear this from someone's phone. And I'll be like, oh, okay, this man is over 50 years old.
To be fair, music back then was simple and catchy. Because I know a lot of people from my grandfather's generation and my mom's generation, as in my parents' generation, who had the Malgudi Days track
Yeah.
for their ringtones.
Every week, every evening, I would walk down the streets, and from every house, I would hear
You'd hear the theme song.
Ta-na-na every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kept us grounded for
Yeah,
some
yeah.
odd reasons. The theme songs, you have a few of them. You have the Camel Ride theme song. You have Feluda's theme song, obviously. And then you have the Sonar Kella's theme song. Once you go there, you hear. And then you have Ram Rache. Not a lot of tracks in the movie, but whatever there are, have a similar bass note like you see in Lord of the Rings. And so if you listen to them one after the other like you would in a jukebox, they sort of fit very well together.
I've never done that.
Like your olden day albums.
Right.
You can listen to the entire album or at a stretch. They're not singles.
Right.
So you can listen to the Sonar Kella jukebox and not feel like, oh, this is a different song. This does not fit in this theme.
This flows into one another.
Yep.
That is very interesting. I wonder if they made it with that in mind, or what his thought was when making the music for this film.
Hey, we just have to assume that the makers made everything.
For a reason.
Yeah, and it was a conscious decision to make whatever they made. If the recording is catching my burps, excuse me, because I'm having some tea.
What tea are you having?
I'm having vanilla oolong.
Oolong.
Yes, vanilla oolong. This is my favorite tea. And I thought for the first podcast, might as well drink some good tea.
Vanilla oolong indeed.
So I guess that pretty much covers the music. Wait, no. I should have some notes. Music. I do have a lot of notes, don't I?
You do have a lot of notes. I was surprised. I was on my first page and you had already gone through your third.
I am that kid in class. Anyway, so speaking of the background music, what I truly enjoyed throughout the movie was a lack of it. Because you don't have to increase volume while the characters are speaking and scatter to find the remote to reduce the volume when there's a song going on or a scene's coming up, because there is that aspect where you hear music before something happens. Say when Topesh Ranjan Mitro. Took me a while to really say that name.
3 years.
When Topesh tha? Topshe. When Topshe spots the scorpion on Feluda's bed, there's music that leads up to that.
Yeah.
Before the child's being abducted, there's a music that leads to that. So there's music that leads to a scene that you definitely have to watch in the movie. Obviously, the movie isn't one of those ambient watching movies. You have to watch it. Nonetheless, you hear music that leads up to an important incident in the movie. Otherwise, there's a lack of it, which is refreshing. Especially after watching current day movies, it's really refreshing.
Inundated with not just sound but also sound effects. You'll have just films that employ sound effects like toing, poing, whatever the fuck it is in the background, or laugh tracks, just to show that, hey, this is supposed to be funny. Like, this film never once insulted my intelligence.
That's one of the things I wrote down. We may be going into a different tangent here. We might be going into narrative, like jumping into narrative with this, but hey, that's what you get if the two of us are talking anyways. I don't know if I should say this because this goes into the very end of the movie. Remember the scene where Feluda spots the second kidnapper, the tall kidnapper, the one with the fancy card shirt, which, by the way, we should take a second to talk about. He spots him in the crowd outside the station, and he spots him because he's wearing his ring.
Yeah.
And that's it. The scene ends there. You understand from Soumitra Chatterjee's expressions that he has figured it out, that this is that person, but you don't see a flashback of this person wearing the ring, nor do you see initially when the guys are introduced, nor do you see that ring prominently on frame.
No, not when they're introduced, but you see it throughout the film.
Throughout the film, that's all. But again, it's not a prominent feature on any of the... You take any frame from the movie, it's not a focus of the mise-en-scène.
One scene.
There
is one scene. When Mukul is being hypnotized.
Oh.
When Mukul is being hypnotized, that guy comes up from behind and puts his hands on the back of the chair, and you see the rings. I remember it because it felt claustrophobic to me. Because this guy is standing behind this child and this other guy is trying to hypnotize him from up close. And it really, really just hammered in the anxiety of how much adults can manipulate a child. And I remembered the ring because it was very prominent in that one frame. Like, even if I forgot, through the use of that ring, it tells me who it is.
Right.
how they are.
Right.
So when we see the ring again, prominently featured in that scene, I'm like, oh, okay, he gets it.
Mm.
That's it.
Mm. So there's no spoon feeding there.
Nope.
Which, thank you, we're not dumb.
Yeah.
Because even in shows like Psych, which we thoroughly enjoy watching, you see Sean have these flashbacks of where he saw that. And I'm sorry, we saw it 2 scenes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Our focus isn't that short span. We're not goldfishes.
On the one hand, I am grateful that they do that for people who might have short attention spans and need a constant reminder.
Then maybe you shouldn't be watching the show.
I mean, yeah, on the one hand, there's that. But if they do, and it's there to appeal to the lowest common denominator.
Okay, I'm going to try not to say anything that'll put off the listeners of the first very episode. Okay.
Opinions, such strong opinions.
Such strong opinions.
But yeah, it's an annoying thing for me too. Just how much of it there is nowadays. Even in films that are supposed to be intelligent or not for quote unquote the mass.
The commercial films.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely true.
It's mind boggling.
So, that was one thing I was really happy about, that we weren't spoon fed. I guess that covers music. Next, we have the video aspects.
Oh boy. I love the camera work here in this film. I absolutely, utterly love it. Because, see, this is a part of me that doesn't get to see a lot. Because as a film student, the neorealist movement was my favorite thing. Okay?
You will have to tell me what a neorealist movement is, because
Okay.
I did not study
I know.
film.
So, realism, as you know, is just capturing what is realistic. It's what happens.
Like a documentary.
Yes, but also in a film, it's mostly no exaggerations, no, say, fantasy elements.
I see.
So, if you watch a film called Bicycle Thieves, okay, it's very to the point. It's just factory workers and blue collar people living their lives. There are no like random confusing cuts. It's very to the point. You can follow the story very, very easily just watching the film. And this movement started in Italy. Because they were poor, they had to make the film however they wanted, and they got it done through this method. Satyajit Ray was very inspired by this movement. So his films are also very on the realistic spectrum. For this film, there are some formalist elements. I mean, you have the whole, this child remembers a past life. But in the fiction of the film, it's a believable thing because nothing really happens to make us doubt it. It's just a given thing that, hey, this is happening. That's just how it is. However, with the camera work, you see mostly steady camera. You see zoom in, zoom out. You see a little bit of dolly work. There is no, how do I put this? It's very smooth. It's extremely smooth. And that just makes my watching experience so much better because I don't have to account for the movement of the camera. There is nothing extremely chaotic about the frames.
Right.
And so I can just focus on
That
the
distracts
elements.
you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. The frame is crystal clear. I can pick out the things that are important very easily. And it holds just long enough that it gives me time to study it. There are no like 13 cuts in one scene, sort of.
Mm. Mm.
And there are cuts, don't get me wrong, but the amount of cuts is very limited.
And seamless.
Yeah, I mean, even if it isn't seamless, even if it's, for example, there were a lot of cuts to other people doing other things in the middle of other scenes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
For example, while Feluda is having a discussion, we would cut to the villains either in a car or a train,
Right, right, right.
and would cut back to Feluda.
Right.
But that serves a
Again,
purpose.
storytelling, right? You're telling two stories, two parallel stories.
Yeah, it shows that these are happening in the same time.
Mm.
So things like that, I think, I don't
One
see
of
a
the
lot
first
of.
things that caught my attention was pretty in the act 1 of the movie, where you have a 5-ish second scene of just the rotary phone, the base of the rotary phone, the kidnapper's hand across it, the kidnapper's talking off screen. So obviously the speaker, the
The receiver.
the receiver is also off screen, and he's making plans, but it's a stationary scene. You don't see that of late.
You don't.
The last time I saw that was when I was watching the old, the 70s, 80s Doctor Who. That's when I saw that.
It's just not in fashion anymore, is all I can say.
I mean, this was 50 years ago.
Yeah, but
But it's still a good way of movie making. It's still a good way of telling a story. The whole plan of kidnapping this boy happened in that 5 seconds, and all you saw was the base of the phone.
yeah, we don't see the villains' faces at
Not
all.
until much later.
Until they're on the train, we don't see them.
Yeah.
Good God, that shirt.
Can we please take a moment to talk about that shirt?
The fashion choices.
The fashion choices.
Oh my God. That man, I don't know how much of it was
I did not see
directed.
him wear other fancy shirt, for a lack of a better word. It was just that one shirt, the one cards shirt.
But he was very flamboyant in his, putting a flower behind his ear
Right, right,
with the scarves and everything.
right.
The hat, the leather jacket.
Right. To be fair, the entire movie had great costume design.
Oh, absolutely.
Costume design brings me to my theory, but I really want to leave it to the end of towards the end of our discussion.
Okay.
Going back to the shirt. If you find something like that, can you please buy me one? As a matter of fact, get 2. So we can both wear it out. I'm sorry, but a little flamboyance isn't going to hurt anyone. And
It's not. It won't. It's just that flamboyance like that has personality, right?
which we don't have.
No, we do. It's just films nowadays. The flamboyance is just, it's there. It's there for the sake of being there.
I don't even want to compare it to today's films. Let's not degrade the cards print shirt by
Wow.
comparing it to today's.
You don't want to compare it to Govinda's orange pants?
Why, honey, why? Kya bada?
Well done. Well done indeed. I have taught you well.
So yeah, that was one of the first scenes that really struck my attention. And another scene that struck my attention was when Feluda is pacing back and forth in his room, trying to wonder whether this is Hajra or Hazra, because you see what I did there. And every time he has this revelation. Again, only when we have to do these important things do I lose my vocabulary.
It's okay. You're getting old.
Performance anxiety.
Wow.
Anyway, every time he has a revelation, he walks towards the light and his face is lit up. And I think that's just brilliant, both A, lighting, B, camera work.
And also, I think Shomachari's choice of performance. For that scene in particular, I mean, he has gone on the record later and said that for Feluda's expressions, he considers himself to not be as smart as a private detective. Right? The person, Shomaji Chatterjee, doesn't consider himself as smart. So, in order to act like a smart person who's always thinking, he tried to keep a frown going at all times, to act more with the eyes and the face. And in that scene, during rehearsals, he heard Satyajit Ray say, and now do this, like drum your fingers.
Okay.
That gave him a different dimension
Right.
to tap into. And all of those things, that is my favorite scene of the film, where not only do we see the detective thinking and coming to logical conclusions and testing theories out, which is not something I see a lot nowadays either. The lighting of the thing, where he is surrounded by darkness and it's slowly coming to light, and the dialogue that a map is forming but it then dissolves as he goes into the darkness and comes back to the light. It's just poetic cinema. There's what more do I say? What more do I say? That is my favorite scene.
Makes sense. That makes sense. What else do we have in terms of camera work, in terms of the video aspects?
I think that they set up and foreshadow things very well. I'll give you one example. When Feluda is discussing with Topshe whether Mukul will be safe or not, he says that for now he'll be safe. But for two people to kidnap a child and then leave him on the street, right? If they can do that to a child, what will they do to a 50-year-old doctor? And in the very next scene, he is thrown off the cliff.
Right.
He didn't need to show it that way, but he did anyway. Just to... Now we're slowly getting into the characterization of the characters. But it just shows you that these villains, not only are they ruthless, not only are they smart in their own way, but they are also, well, they are dumb as well in their own way. It's just, these villains are, they're not cut from the same cloth as we see in the film. These are a very different breed of people.
I see. I mean, they're not villains, I guess. They're kidnappers.
Kidnappers, murderers, conmen, whatever you want to call them.
Conmen,
Yeah.
right. I guess that's the right word. And I guess that's what gives them the edge against other villains, because they're well-dressed, they're well-poised. Or else a child wouldn't really walk away with them.
No, but they would. This is something I wrote down because I was considering how Mukul can be read as a character exhibiting ADHD traits. Okay?
Interesting.
That was one of the lenses I was looking at it through. Because his father says he can't recognize him now. He gets distracted very easily. He can't sleep at night. He randomly drops in, drops out of attention because he has this past life thing going on. And it made me think of the ADHD masking. Wherein he can't pay attention to his surroundings. And he is so...
Has an overactive imagination.
Yes. And he is so driven and focused on this one topic, that he is willing to trust anyone to get to where he needs to be. He doesn't think of anything else. He isn't making this. Obviously, he's a child. But he goes off with a stranger who says, I will show you the Sonar Kella in Dr. Hajra.
To be fair, to be very fair, his father trusted him and his father handed the child over to Dr. Hajra and said, please.
No. His father later says that how can this child who never used to leave home just randomly go with a stranger and leave all his family and home behind? It's like I don't even recognize him sometimes. So at that moment we again foreshadowing, we set up the fact that Mukul is willing to go with anyone.
Who'll show him home?
Yeah. And that is, I think, one of the most important themes is the pursuit of home.
Interesting. That's another thing I wrote. Pursuit of home. Yes. Because once he gets there, he cries. And I guess he's over this obsession.
Yeah, because it's
and
gone.
Finally wants to go back to his own body,
Yeah.
which is in Calcutta.
Yeah. It's just a boy's search for home. It's an age-old story.
That's actually very insightful. I see Mukul in a entirely different light now. Obviously, as a child who also had ADHD growing up and still has it, it is very difficult to find that safe space for yourself. Obviously, because the adults around you don't understand what you're going through. Obviously, you also don't understand what you're going through. So there is a void that home is supposed to fill, but home isn't home.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
And how far are you willing to go for home that you just trust anyone?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very insightful.
Yeah. It's just, and also the fact, and that might be the main theme of the film. And I definitely think Mukul is the main character of the film.
Oh, absolutely.
The film is about his pursuit of home. Even if we are looking at it as a detective story, Feluda is not the focal
main
character.
Yeah, the focal character. That's again something I wrote down in my theory that you will hear very soon. I have been itching to tell you this since last night.
Can confirm.
However, going back to the quote unquote villains of the film, they were introduced very well. First, all you see is a hand with a ring on the phone. Then you see their shoes.
Yeah.
They are good shoes.
They are good
They're
shoes.
well polished and they have good ironed pants.
Pressed, yes.
I know it's not a requirement anymore to iron your pants, but ironed pants. It shows. When I mentioned Mukul earlier, I don't mean the Mukul of the main character. I meant the other Mukul in the same para who was initially kidnapped. Now, that boy wouldn't walk away with these two strangers, even though he was asked to show him
A house.
a house. I don't think anyone would walk away with two strangely clad men.
Right. Right.
Because they were well dressed, they had Mukul felt that they were normal people. They looked like they would blend into the society.
Perception is reality. So, personal story, but growing up, everyone told me, don't go near people who are dressed poorly. Obviously. You never know where they're from, what they will do, whatever. But as an adult, you know that how you dress doesn't necessarily reflect how you are as a person.
Yes.
But as a child, as a child, you have no conception of what certain people are capable of.
Oh, hon, even as an adult,
Yes, but as a child especially.
that's the first thing you see.
Hmm.
And no matter what you have to say, that's how society functions. And if you are poorly dressed, you're not really welcome into the fancy stores, are you?
No.
Hmm.
So they definitely know how to manipulate the game.
Mm.
And it even in their backstory where they had run this fraudulent
Hypnotism.
cult in Allahabad,
Mm.
how can they do that if they don't dress the part?
Exactly.
Right. And that's what one of the villains remarks on. That was in 62. I had a robe, I had hair, you had hair, you know.
Mm.
Now we're both taklamakans.
Mm, 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 mm. Taklamakan. Right. Can we move on to something else?
Sure. Theory time?
Uh, not yet.
Oh my god. Just
We'll
get
get there.
to
We'll
it,
get there.
woman.
You mentioned that the Howrah station clock that was in the scene is still in the station.
Yes.
And it's still 10 minutes late. Is that true?
Supposed to be. That's a running joke.
Why is it 10 minutes late?
I don't know. It's never the right time is basically what it is.
Oh.
It's either 5 minutes past, 10 minutes late. No one knows exactly what is going on with that clock.
Oh.
But it is a prominent meeting spot where if you're meeting people to catch a train and coming separately, you say, "Ha, ghadi ke niche."
I see.
But what time is the ghadi going at? No one knows.
Oh.
What time zone it's following.
It's following its own time.
Exactly.
Much like a lot of Indians.
I mean.
IST isn't really GMT 5.5, is it? It's just what everyone wants.
Exactly. It's how you get away with saying, "Ha, 5 minutes pe aa raha hai," while you're getting dressed.
We were talking about lighting and framing and how you see this perception when he's in the dark, he's confused, he's in the light, he's had a bit of revelation, right? There was another scene that caught my attention, which was when they were going in the auto. You have Jatayu, you have Topesh and Feluda. They were going in an auto. This is when they go out and find that mud cutlery set.
Sandstone, yes.
Sandstone?
Yeah.
I see. First off, that framing of introducing that little mug, that glass,
Tung,
and
tung,
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 tung, tung,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was absolutely beautiful. I
know.
loved that. Then, so while they were going there, Feluda still hasn't figured out everything, every piece of the puzzle yet. So, in the frame, he says to Jatayu, "Raste pe nazar rakhna." But you can't see the entire rasta because the auto's frame, the body, is smack dab in the middle of the frame. So he is missing a bloody vital scene, a bloody vital piece of this puzzle, and the framing says so clearly. If it was intentional, which we should assume, everything a creator does is intentional, brilliant work.
And as soon as Jatayu points out that, hey, it's so pretty, those whatever it is, cups and mugs or whatever, he looks over, the auto stops, and we have that scene, the tung, 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 tung. The camera then moves to a more open space, and it's like, oh, one of the windows in his mind has opened.
Also, when they're going to Jaisalmer in the car, you don't see any obstructions. The frame is clear as day. So now since everything's clear in his head, his view of the rasta is clear.
Hmm. But he doesn't see the glass coming.
He does not. How can he? You're sitting in the back seat.
That is true.
Also, he did not know that the card printed dude is with Hajra.
Not yet.
Not yet.
He had his suspicions,
Mm.
but that glass was the confirmation he needed.
Speaking of frames, yet another one that I liked was after they all got off the camels,
Hmm.
Jotayu is struggling to stand and Topesh is helping him stand. And all of this is done in silhouette format.
Hmm.
The color palette used, the sunset in the background in this, and him walking with his odd
Ostrich legs, yes.
yeah. In the silhouette, you see the second kidnapper, but it's not clear, but it is clear.
Exactly. It's subtle.
Chef kiss.
I know.
Absolutely beautiful.
Another thing that I want to comment on, again, in the foreshadowing department.
Mm.
In the beginning, when Feluda is explaining to Topesh what parapsychology is, he gives the example of telepathy. In that, what other people might say is circumstantial or coincidence, a parapsychologist will say you manifested it through telepathy.
Oh.
Right? So, after that guy tries to stab him on the train and he escapes through the door and goes into another compartment where Dr. Hajra, the actual Hajra, is. What are the chances that he would have gone into a compartment right where this other person is? So did Dr. Hajra, the parapsychologist, manifest it through telepathy in the fiction of this film?
Who knows?
Because he does say that our relation goes back a long ways to 1962
True.
in Allahabad. Do you recognize me? And he has this stricken look on his face and the door closes on him and he falls and dies.
What is the line Feluda says?
Apod geche mone hoy.
Obviously, I don't understand exactly what it means, but I guess it means afat gaya.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
And Apod is an annoying person, basically. Annoying, troublesome person.
Apod.
Apod, A-P-O-D.
Like your butt, pod.
Not the, but the. Apod. The as in dahi.
Okay.
Apod.
Apod.
Yes.
What? Okay. What? Never mind. I don't
Apod.
want.
One S.
I see. Ayyo.
You asked.
I did ask. It's on me. Is there anything else you want to say before I come to my theory?
No, get to your theory.
Okay. One thing I noticed was how Mr. Rai picked his color themes, palettes, and costume design. Okay? My theory is that the main character in the scene, who's supposed to be either A, the focal point, or someone that whom people approach for guidance, for advice, is wearing red.
Okay.
Now, I will also put this out there that this entire thing could be absolute bullshit, because he must have chosen red because it stood out on the frame. That is absolutely possible. However, it kind of makes sense because first, in the very first introduction of Feluda, he's wearing a red kurta.
Yes.
And the dad comes to talk to him.
Yes. He is.
Then the older gentleman,
Shidujata.
yes, is wearing a red shawl.
Yes.
When the kid was kidnapped, when Mukul was kidnapped, and sorry, not when he was kidnapped, but
After.
yeah, after he comes back and Feluda is interviewing him to get any information on the kidnappers, he is wearing red.
And his grandfather is also wearing a red shawl, I think.
I
I think so. But yeah, go on.
might
go
have
on,
to.
Go on.
I guess you are right.
Go on.
But the kid is wearing red.
Because they're both telling the story.
Both
And
telling
I
the
think
story.
Feluda is also wearing a red jacket, sort of.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't? Okay.
He was not in that scene.
Okay.
But later he wears pink. In the next scene where he's taking up the responsibility to follow this route
Mhm.
to where the kid is on, he's wearing pink, not red, but in the same spectrum, right? Next one's a little funny, but I wrote it down anyway. The train is red because it's taking them from one place to the other.
No, that's a good observation.
The coolies are wearing red because the train. It's not in the actual list, but I wrote it down anyway. Mukul on the train is wearing a red shawl and red pants. That's how they recognize him. The Japanese suitcase is red, which, by the way, is imported. We should take a minute after this just to talk about Jatayu. Okay.
God damn it.
Next, Dr. Hajra. After he's found, he's gotten his first aid done, and then he leaves. He leaves and he's wearing a red shawl
Okay.
afterwards. Now, here is an interesting tangent, I think, that the movie takes. Up until now, Mukul was the main character, so he's wearing red. But now, Dr. Hajra needs to get back to Mukul, so he is also wearing red. So this is where the movie splits into two different stories. Although, again, like I said, it's already been split into two different movies. Feluda is also in his own journey to finding Mukul. But then I think Dr. Hajra has his own storyline to tell, and the child has his own storyline to tell. So they're both wearing red predominantly. After the fake Hajra leaves with Mukul, I sort of half expected Feluda to also wear predominantly red, but then he has a red stripe on his shawl. So just grasping at straws, I'm going to take that. I'm going to count that. And then I think the last person to wear red I saw predominantly was the fake kidnapper, the second dude.
Yeah, because Rajasthani kapde.
So I am not going to consider that. But I think this is a pretty long list of reds. And you don't see red predominantly worn anywhere else.
Interesting. I'll need to
Rewatch
watch
the
this
film?
with this in mind. Never thought of this before. Very good. Very well done.
Although we'll never know.
We'll never know.
This mystery remains unsolved.
Speaking of mysteries.
Speaking of
and
mysteries.
writing mysteries.
And writing mysteries.
We have
Mr.
the
Jatayu.
very janapriya lekhak of Rahsya Romanch Kahaniya, Mr. Lal Mohan Bengali, urf Jatayu.
He's Chadmanab.
I don't know about you, but having seen as much shit as I have with films, anime, TV shows, cartoons, I don't think I have ever met a character who is introduced in such a bombastic way or a more enjoyable bombastic way than him.
I can think of a few, but yes, I agree. He's on that top shelf.
Yeah. Just comes in with his whole
Japanese suitcase.
imported. And then the instant traveling Bengali annoyance of tang mat karo, kafi ho gaya, jada ho gaya, jao, jao. Santosh Datta just makes the role his.
Right, right.
And I've read the book. Some lines that were his are not there in the book, obviously.
Okay.
To make a film, you have to
Yeah.
add shit. But that man, who was a lawyer, by the way,
Oh.
so
Oh.
he's a smart, fit man, to turn into a bumbling idiot like that.
Is he a bumbling idiot though?
Is he not? He
No.
gets taken as a hostage while trying to steal back his dagger on the train.
Yeah, but anyone would. It's a Nepali chura.
Wow, Jang Bahadur Rana. Do not enable Jatayu, please.
Why not? He is a moment, a mantra, a mood. Yes. Is a mood, a moment, a mantra.
One of my favorite recurring characters in Bengali literature by far
Mm.
is just him. I have tried to be him so much.
I believe you 100%.
And it's just that,
I live with that every day.
I know. And his Hindi,
The textbook
yes,
Bengali to him.
self-taught.
Yes.
It's just Hindi I have heard my grandfather speak.
Oh,
Every generation of Bengali has that
that's
Hindi.
how South Indians speak too, because that's how you learn Hindi. At least the ones who don't grow up watching Bollywood movies, or kids who aren't from cities and grew up around North Indians. That's how I've heard a lot of my cousins speak as well.
रावण राजा जब सीता माई जी को हरण करके ले
ले
जाता
जाता
था.
Continuous tense. ले जाता था. Happened in every life. So ले जाता था is correct.
In that scene, as much of a show stealer he is, I think the real star is the nodding Marwari guy, whose only job was to eat and nod his head as if he was understanding everything going on.
अब तक 26 कहानियां लिखी है मैंने.
All
published. So for the record, this is my third viewing of the movie.
Yeah.
But these lines by Jatayu have been a constant record in the house from the husband. So I've almost got them memorized.
Pin code.
Why is he the way that he is? He is brilliant. Can we adopt this man?
I would if I could. I definitely think he's my favorite character. Just by virtue of how animated he is and how excited he is to be on a real adventure with a real detective.
Right, because when something happens, he has this unbridled energy.
Yeah.
He cannot sit still.
No.
It's beautiful to watch.
In contrast, Topshe is very... He toes the line between excited and reserved. In like, he's still a young...
Except that one scene where he's properly introduced and he has this smug look on his face. Yes, I am his satellite. I am Feluda's satellite.
I think that's because he is trying to model himself after him. And also, but he's still a child. So, yeah. Him I love. But let's get to the villains.
Okay.
I think that in the beginning, they were always going to make mistakes, right? But initially they were led by greed. The gems and whatever.
Right.
But once they learned that this is the Dr. Hajra that caught them in 62, their quest also turns into one of vengeance. And ultimately that is what I think leads to their downfall, because they bite on a little more than they can chew once they throw him off the cliff. Yeah,
I guess they don't expect him to.
They don't, and they
Survive that.
have shown themselves capable of murder from very early on. And the casualness with which they discuss such things and then go back to their whole comedy routine, ki paisa do, khane ke liye kuch nahi hai.
And plucking of the flower and putting it behind his ear.
So they do not even take this very seriously. It's just another Wednesday afternoon for them.
Right.
So even when they are enjoyable to watch, if you take a step back and think about it, these are predators. Wolves in sheep's clothing. I mean, and I think the portrayals and the performances by the actors, spot on. Like, they are a constant balancing act, the two of them. I think it's just perfect.
Speaking of casting, I think there needs to be a special mention for the cameraman who takes Mukul's picture for the newspaper and says, smile.
And Mughal says, Kenno.
Kenno. Just mentioning that, putting it out there, that's all.
Mukul, the little boy, he actually grows up to be an actor.
Expected. Most child actors do.
Yeah. And he still speaks very fondly. The other Mukul, he grows up to be a director in Bombay.
Oh, interesting. Did he make anything?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Perhaps he did. I'm not aware of it. But I know that he grew up to be a director. He's based out of Bombay. What did you think of Topish, performance-wise?
Nothing in particular.
Right?
Nothing in particular. He doesn't... So, anyone, as a matter of fact, apart from Jatayu, and Feluda, again, only because it's probably been played by Soumitra Chatterjee, and I have this gigantic crush on him, like every other Bengali woman. So, apart from the two of them, performance-wise, everyone is on point. These two take it a notch higher, but everyone else is on point. I don't think there's anything to say, per se.
Right. It's just a lot of depth.
Great casting,
Oh, yeah,
great
absolutely.
dialogue delivery, great timing,
And great dialogues too.
great dialogues too.
I mean, just the way humor is sprinkled into this story.
Dushtu Manush, Dushtu Manush.
Dushtulok.
Dushtulok. Where did you see them? This life or the other life?
Exactly. Like, oh, তুমি যোগ করবে? হ্যাঁ, যোগ করবো, দরকার হলে বিয়োগও করবো. Random things you wouldn't expect jokes in.
Right. Nuggets of comedy.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just brilliant, I think. Also, you remember Sidhu Jata? The guy that Feluda goes to in the beginning for guidance. He is described as having newspaper clippings from every year. So he is the Wikipedia or the internet of the age. What do you think a character like that has any value in the modern era? Unless it's a period piece.
That's a very philosophical question, I guess. Maybe not. Maybe not. But hey, I did something like that in the past and I like doing that.
I think it's a very good aesthetically, good aesthetic choice. And also a very grounding, humbling thing to have your lead detective go to someone for guidance too.
True. Which is precisely what hammered down the red theory for me, because he was wearing a red shawl when Feluda was wearing blue.
Right.
So I went back to it and wrote this down afterwards, because I kept thinking about this and I realized, hey, this old man was wearing red as well. Anything else you want to say, add? I have nothing left to add. I guess we can go towards the end of the podcast.
It's time to wind down here.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
I'm just saying that it's getting the time to wind down. I've said before that the pacing scene was my favorite scene. What about you?
Jatayu.
The introduction.
Yeah. First time watch, he just caught my attention so hard. I could not look away from him. And his Hindi is, again, chef's kiss.
উট সম্পর্কে প্রশ্ন চলবে
Oot? Na, utho.
উট কি কাঠা পেঁচে খায়? Just who fucking thinks of asking a question like that?
Jatayu.
Over
So, yeah. Favorite character, Jatayu.
Jatayu, by far.
I guess that's it. We can end with that.
We can. Also, I think another character that doesn't get as much attention is the Indian Railways. The Indian Railways has been a pivotal part of this film. Without the trains are such an important part of this film.
True.
I think it had, and you said the train was red too.
True.
Without trains, this film wouldn't take place. And the amount of focus that they have given the trains and the entire traveling on first class, second class, what have you. It forms the backbone of the middle class Bengali. And that is,
Indian in general.
yeah, but since this is a Bengali film, yeah, I definitely think that the Indian Railways did a great job with this.
So that's something the British gave us, huh? Apart from the aqueducts.
Bhai. Jato.
Random Monty Python reference, but I guess good place to stop.
Yeah.
Good place to stop. So we don't really expect anyone to listen to this and have
I would
come
be
this far.
Extremely surprised if people listen to this.
Listen to this. This is primarily for us to listen back when we're 50
Old. Yeah.
something. So that's it. I don't know what the next movie is going to be.
But whatever it is, it's going to be from our list. So
From our list,
look forward
yes.
to that. And we will see you when we see you.
In February.
In February.
Yes. Okay.
Bye bye.
Ta-ta.